Welcome, everybody, to the CFL Weekly Pick'em Show on the Grueling Truth Sports Network. The CFL Weekly Pick'em Show is brought to you by BetNow.eu for a 100% cashback bonus on your first deposit up to $500. Make sure you go to BetNow.eu and use the promo code Truth100. I'm your co-host for the CFL Weekly Pick'em Show, Mike Goodpaster. Right now, I'd like to welcome in my other two hosts. First up, Brian Schmidt. How you doing, Schmitty?
I am here. I'm excited. Haven't done as many shows as you have today, though.
You sound excited. Next up, former Toronto Argonaut, BC Lion when they were good. Four-time Grey Cup winner and CFL legend, which means he's old. Robert Drummond. How you doing, Robert?
Pretty good. How's it going? Doing pretty good.
Doing great. We'll talk to Vernon Adams when we get to the Montreal game because that was entertaining. But we're going to start off with one of your old teams, the Toronto Argonauts. After a dominant first half by the Calgary Stamps, a dominant first half was the difference by the Stamps. They came out with a 23-16 victory over the Toronto Argonauts on Friday night. Calgary quarterback Bo Levi Mitchell, 33 of 48, 346 yards and a touchdown. So I'm going to start off asking about Toronto, though. They played Calgary. They made a little comeback at the end. They played tough again. What's your take on them? Because James Franklin played good. Bethel Thompson McLeod played good. James Wilder only had 4 carries for 40 yards. But the Argonauts have definitely improved. Is there hope for next year?
It remains to be seen. I give them a lot of credit, but at this point in the season, them still going out there and giving a tough Calgary team, a playoff-bound Calgary team, a tough game. Calgary jumped off to a 14-point lead, and at that point, the Argos could have tanked it, but they didn't. They fought through the whole game, and for our team to come back in the fourth quarter, it shows the fortitude of what they're capable of. Hopefully they can turn that around going into next season, but for right now, I give those guys a lot of credit for the way they played, with heart, because a lot of teams would have just tanked it and given up by now.
Yeah, and you're talking about the Miami Dolphins, and they've given up after week 1. Bo Levi Mitchell, Brian, 33 for 48, 346 yards, 1 touchdown, but 2 interceptions. There wasn't much of a running game for Calgary. Is there any concerns, or since it's Calgary, we're just going to assume that everything will be fine and Bo Levi Mitchell will be a little bit better each game?
I think you've got to have a little bit of concern. The turnovers are getting a little bit alarming. That's something that they're going to have to fix. It's one thing when you see it over a short span, but it's another thing when it seems to be very consistent. And that's, you can get away with that sometimes in the regular season. When you get to playoff time, every turnover the magnitude is even higher. So I think that's something that they're definitely going to have to address.
All right, let's go to Edmonton, where a 34-yard, I would say this guy's name, but it's Liram Harulahu, kicked a 34-yard game-winning field goal as time expired to lift the Ticats over the Edmonton Eskimos with a 30-27 road win on Friday night. Another great game. The Ticats survived a 24-point comeback to earn the victory. They're now 10-3. They've clinched a playoff spot, Brian. And once again, they're doing it with their backup quarterback, Dane Evans, who had another really good night, 22 for 30, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. Had 3 or 4 guys that all ran the ball for about 4 yards or more per carry. This was a good performance. Edmonton was going with Logan Kilgore instead of Trevor Harris, though. Same thing. Any concerns with Hamilton?
I don't know that you can call Dane Evans a backup anymore. I mean,
no.
The guy's just week in, week out doing the job. Like I say, I mean, I think right now, I think there's always going to be concerns, but I think Hamilton right now is playing, real good football. Obviously, Dane Evans is playing at a high level. If they can continue this, who knows what can happen in the playoffs? This is a dangerous team. I really, the more we get into the season, the more impressed I get.
Yeah, and when we look at the playoffs possibly with the Edmonton Eskimos, Logan Kilgore played, of course, they lost the game. He played decent. The 3 interceptions kind of killed a decent night for him. Um, my question, Robert, as a 6 seed, Edmonton's extremely dangerous, though, if Trevor Harris is healthy with C.J. Gable. I mean, this is not a pushover when you get to the playoffs.
No, it's not a pushover game at all. And I would have loved to have seen what would have happened in this game. If Kilgore wouldn't have had the 3 interceptions. If Hamilton jumped out, to, again, a 21-point lead, and at that point, most things in the mindset of a player when you get a lead like that, it's like it's going to be one of these long days. But Edmonton fought back, so they showed the type of caliber team they are. And what they can do. And as I said before, a quarterback's job is to manage a game, and those turnovers are killers. And those 3 turnovers could have been a difference between a victory could have been the difference between an Edmonton win, and an Edmonton loss.
All right, Vernon Adams Jr. led an incredible fourth-quarter comeback to lift the Montreal Alouettes over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers 38-37. On Saturday night, they scored 21 unanswered points in the fourth quarter, and Adams engineered a 94-yard game-winning drive in the final minute that ended with a 15-yard pass to Jake Wieneke. Should Vernon Adams have been playing in the fourth quarter here, Robert?
No. I mean, that's just, as a football player, I was talking about to one of the clients who I trained today. It's like, you play with rage, but it can't be blind rage. It's got to be controlled rage. That's the nature of the beast. It's a gladiator sport. It's a collision sport. And you have to know, you can't put your team, you can't put yourself in jeopardy of being suspended for a game or kicked out of a game. And that young man lost it, and he should have been ejected from that game. Regardless, winning the CFL, player of the week and things of that nature, that's not right. He had a great game, but it doesn't matter. It takes away from the integrity of not just the game, but of you as an individual and you as a football player. So I didn't like that at all.
Yeah, Brian, you want to chime in on Vernon Adams? Because the big thing here is it's not like he's a linebacker. He's the quarterback. He's the guy that's got to make sure everybody else keeps their head around them.
Yeah, I really agree with what Robert said. With the incident that happened, I'm shocked that he was still in the game. I'm shocked that he was not ejected, which now leads to the question: you don't eject him from the game, but because of his incident, he's suspended for 1 game. So that tells me that he should have been ejected from the game and suspended 1 game for doing something. I mean, there has to be an answer to that. I mean, you just cannot take your helmet off and start swinging. And I got to say this. If I'm Winnipeg, I'm a little ticked off because let's be honest, this was a incredible fourth quarter comeback. I read somewhere where they were talking about maybe it was one of the top, CFL comebacks of all time. But if you're Winnipeg, are you losing this game if Vernon Adams gets ejected?
Probably not.
No.
So, there's another question right there. If I'm Winnipeg, I'm really questioning this whole thing. Why was he not ejected? And because he wasn't ejected, we lost the game. There's a lot to that. I think that there's some definite questions that should be answered that I don't know that it ever will be answered.
Yeah, and now Vernon Adams has been suspended, but will he play this week? Because, if he... Well, no, it says he won't appeal the suspension, so I'm going to ignore that. So Vernon Adams knows what he did was wrong, too.
Yeah, absolutely.
You have to.
Absolutely.
It looks stupid. And the thing is this. It sets a precedent where maybe somebody else will do something stupid because they figure, hell, he got away with it and played the rest of the game.
Exactly, and that's the problem. It takes away from the integrity of the game.
Yeah, and I think that's the key word: integrity of the game. It's definitely compromised when you allow something like this to happen.
Well, and the thing that's amazing is how much the CFL and even the NFL and the NCAA will compromise the integrity of the game all the time and get away with it.
Yeah, they do.
Absolutely.
But I guess when you got a lot of money, that can happen. All right, a dominant performance on both sides of the ball led the BC Lions to a 40-7 road win over the Ottawa Red Blacks on Saturday night. The Lions are now a sparkling 3-10 after back-to-back games against Ottawa, which will get anybody back-to-back wins right now. They scored 40 for the first time. Ottawa's a mess. They're the worst team here. I mean, they didn't even score a touchdown. They got, two safeties, I think, and 3 points, a field goal. So when you look at this, same thing, the BC Lions, I don't know that we could say they're actually getting better. They're just playing the Ottawa Red Blacks, Brian.
Yeah, that's exactly the key point of this. They're not getting better. They're just playing somebody that's worse. So you really can't read a whole lot into it. Obviously it's great when you can get a couple victories, but it's also tempered by the fact of who you're playing.
Yeah, and they were playing nobody. We'll find out this week. They host Montreal, but Montreal doesn't have Vernon Adams, so maybe that'll be a game. Let's go ahead and let's look at the Week 16 games. Robert, I would ask you something about that game, but I don't even know what the hell my next question would be.
I was going to say, do I really have to talk about that game?
No, you don't. So we'll act like it didn't happen. Everybody else in Ottawa acts like it didn't happen, probably. We have one outstanding game, and it starts the week off Friday night, September the 27th at 8:30 Eastern Time. The Hamilton Tiger Cats will travel to Winnipeg to take on the Blue Bombers, Robert.
Ooh. I stuck with them before all season, really, and I think their team is growing and getting better. Hamilton.
Right,
I think
go ahead.
I was going to say Winnipeg's coming off a tough loss against the Montreal team, with Vernon Adams staying in, and they still may be sitting and upset, but, I just think Hamilton just has too much firepower with Dane Evans the way he's been playing.
All right, Brian, agree or disagree?
Yeah, I am agreeing 100%. I think Hamilton right now is vying to be that, top team in the CFL. They're playing great football, and I think this is going to be a victory.
All right. Hell with it. I'm going with Winnipeg. Nah, I'm kidding. No, I'm not. I don't know. This is 50-50 to me. I think these are the two best teams in the CFL right now. I'm going to go with Winnipeg since they're at home. What the hell? Edmonton at Ottawa. Does anybody have to talk about this, or can we all just agree the Eskimos are probably going to win?
Yeah, I think we can all agree.
Yeah. All right, next up, a game that may be interesting. Saskatchewan will travel to Toronto to take on Robert's Argonauts. Can Toronto get the win here, Robert?
I don't think they can. I think they're going to put up a great fight. I just think the Rough Riders are a little bit too deep, and too good of a team, But it's good to see the Argonauts, the players with nothing really to play for, going out there and playing for something, which is pride.
All right, Brian?
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Saskatchewan, but I think Toronto will continue to make these games close. It's great that they go out there and they fight. I just think in the end, something that you had said last night on our NFL show, which is true, is the difference, between good and bad teams and in many cases, good and bad coaches is, everybody's going to play a close game, but are you winning or losing these close games? And Toronto's fighting and they're playing well, but they're not winning these close games, which means in the off season they need to look at what do we need to do to get over the hump? Is it coaching? What kind of players do we have? I think these are a lot of things that they're going to have to do to get out of where they're at right now.
So, Robert, do you think it's more of a coaching problem or a player problem in Toronto? I think they just need to get some more players. I think the coaching is fine.
It's a little bit of both. They do need certain players in key positions, but also the coaching has to be better and put them in situations to be successful. I like the simple fact of what the coaches are doing and being able to motivate these guys to go out there and still give 100%, knowing that the season it's over. Regardless of these last few games. But, that's hard for a coach to motivate players to do that because these are professional athletes. And right now these guys are thinking about next year and not getting injured and free agency and possibly going back to the NFL. So there's a lot of things that are going on in these players' minds right now. And for these coaches to be able to, calm these guys down and let them know they have to take care of the game in front of them, and the season play as well as they have been, that's very impressive. So, I'd say it's a little bit of both from that standpoint. But at the end of the day, it's the players that play on the field, and everything really falls on them. But the coaches are the one calling the plays.
All right, next up, Montreal at BC. No Vernon Adams for Montreal. I'm going to start this off. I think BC wins this game. I think they got a little bit of talent here, and no Vernon Adams. I'm going to go with BC in a close one because I think a couple weeks ago, Montreal won a close one at home. I think it was like 21-16. So I'm going to go with BC in the upset here, Brian.
Here's the thing with that is I agree with you, but for a different reason, and that is no Vernon Adams. And here's the thing.
I said that
the
at the
role that
start. You're
Montreal
not disagreeing with me because if Vernon Adams was there, I would pick Montreal.
Oh, okay. Well, if he's there, I feel really good about I feel really good about that. But when you take a quarterback that has been a big part of your role and you take him out, that's usually where you see problems. And I think this is going to create a problem for Montreal in this game. But even with that, I just think BC is terrible, and I think Montreal will find a way to win by 1 point.
All right, Robert?
BC is as good as they are not. I think they're going to win this game for the simple fact that Vernon Adams is not playing this game, and that's a huge mental loss, for the Alouettes. He's the one who engineered the comeback, in their past game. And when you lose your leader like that, that takes a lot out of you. I sit here and I go through my head if I was playing in the game and all of a sudden, Doug Flutie for some reason or other couldn't play. It's like, all right, now you're scrambling about, okay, who has to step up now? And so it's a situation where losing a caliber quarterback like that or player like that is really going to mentally affect them, and they won't have time enough to win this game. I think BC takes advantage and wins this game.
All right, I agree with you, Robert. Robert's a legend, so I win, Brian. You're wrong.
Well, we'll see.
All right. Robert, any final words before we go?
The team is winding down. It's going to be interesting these last few weeks for the teams that are jockeying for position to put themselves as a top tier teams to be reckoned with, and the teams that are basically playing to get out of the season safe, and unscathed and unharmed. So it's going to be interesting to watch and see what happens.
Yeah, and I can't wait till the playoffs, Brian, because I think this is the deepest field of 6 teams that we have seen in a long time in the CFL.
Oh, absolutely! It's gonna be a fun playoff, and it's going to be a playoff that any one of the 6 could conceivably win this. I think we're seeing that right now.
All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I want to remind you can go to betnow.eu, use the promo code TRUTH100 for a 100% cashback bonus on your first deposit up to $500. We will be here again next Wednesday night at 9 o'clock Eastern Time on the Grueling Truth Sports Network to talk a little CFL football. But until then, you can hear all of our shows on iHeartRadio, iTunes, TuneIn, Spreaker, Stitcher, Spotify. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find The Grueling Truth. So, for Robert Drummond, Brian Schmidt, I'm Mike Goodpaster. You've been listening to The Grueling Truth, where the legends speak.